Welcome guys to my first ever book unhaul video. I am excited. I've got quite a lot to get through. Some of these are my books, some of these are my husband's. Just to let you know, my husband is working in the kitchen sort of one room away from me. So if you can hear like scratching noises in the background or things like that because he's doing stuff on the wall, then yeah, that's what that is. It's my husband working, bless him, in the kitchen. We call it his second job. Yeah, there's not a lot I can do about it. Anyway, so I was thinking about this. I was thinking about the fact that why don't I have many unhaul videos? Now, I may or may not have mentioned this on my channel before. I'm someone that doesn't really tend to buy a lot of books generally. I have my Kindle, and the books I do buy are usually secondhand. So yeah, that's still buying books, I get that. But yeah, so I don't tend to keep books either. Like once I've finished with it, I donate it or I sell it. Because we're renovating our home at the moment, we just don't really have places for stuff. It's not that bad, but like we do have storage, but it's like, yeah, we have to be careful about what we put, and eventually I'll get like my little book area, and eventually, but you know, time and money and all the rest of it. So anyway, I'm not going to bore you with that. Once I'm done with the book, especially if I don't particularly like it, I am very rarely going to keep it, and I'm very rarely going to reread it. There are some exceptions to that rule, but generally I don't tend to keep it. That's why I always say to people, like, if you're going to buy me a book, buy it secondhand. I'm just not going to probably keep it. So anyway, with that, and let me just drink my tea a minute. Oh, and before I start, some of these books will be on my Vinted, which I will leave linked in the description, but just bear in mind by the time this goes live, they may have already sold. And I don't keep them on there for very long, so if they don't sell within like the week or maybe a week and a half, I just take them to charity, and I haven't got the room for them. So yeah, just bear that in mind, but I will tell you which ones I intend to put on Vinted and which ones are going to be donated or whatever. So most of them will be on Vinted. But anyway, let's get started. Those of you who watched some of my recent vlogs will know this one. This is Pine by Francine Toon, and I absolutely love this cover. This cover is like, I love it. It's absolutely stunning. Let me just have some more tea. Let me give you the tea. Kind of looks similar, doesn't it? Not really. It's a hairy coo and a stag. But look how stunning that is. Like, I just absolutely love that. One of my favourite book covers, I think, of all time. Like one of them, if not, no, maybe not the best, but I don't know, it's pretty high up there. This is set in the Scottish Highlands, and it tells a story of a young girl who I believe is in her sort of tweens, so like pre-teens I should call it, really, 12, or she might even be about 13, I can't remember. She's very, very young, and she lives with her dad. Now their mum went missing a few years ago. No one really knows why or how. They don't know if she's dead or alive, and they think she may still be alive. Her mum was kind of like very spiritual, very witchy, very kind of like known because they live in a very, very small community because it's set in the Scottish Highlands, and her mum is quite yeah, just kind of out there, you know, kind of mystical and witchy, and she was seen as kind of a little bit weird in the community, but people liked her, but they just thought she was a bit odd. And they live in quite they're quite poor, basically. They're very poor. There's a lot of mould in the house. Her dad is trying, but obviously his dad's still very upset about the mum's disappearance. Her dad doesn't really like talking about it. This book is so fucking good. Like, I cannot, the vibes alone, guys, the vibes alone is beautiful. The tone is beautiful. The story is beautiful. The dialogue is beautiful. The characters are beautiful. I ended up giving this a 4-star. The reason I couldn't quite give it a 5 stars because, and again, I said this in my vlog, but not my vlog, my wrap up, sorry, same thing, you know what I mean, in one of my videos I said that I couldn't quite give it a 5-star because at the end it is a bit abrupt. It just kind of like, oh, is that it, kind of thing. It's a bit like, yeah, we could have just done with spending a little bit more time with the characters and a little bit more time with the story. And it's a very short book, it's not very long. I can't wait to read more from this author. My husband did also read this and loved it as well, but it's one of those ones we're just not going to reread again. As much as I loved it, I just don't think I'm going to reread it. I'm starting to think now, actually, shall I keep this and reread it? Because I did really like this. Maybe not. Maybe this is not an unhaul. We got this secondhand anyway. This was in a charity shop, I think. Do I want to reread this next year in like sort of Halloween time or like autumn? There's so many more books I have. Like, let's not do that. Because I'll be doing that with every book. I'm like, But yeah, honestly, guys, I would highly recommend this. It is creepy. It is kind of got all that. Yeah, it is quite a good Halloween read. It's, yeah, I don't know what else to say. It's just absolutely beautiful. I loved it, and I would just highly recommend it if you're into kind of creepiness, if you're into witchy stuff. And that's another thing, I don't know if I mentioned this, but Lauren, so the girl, she often like kind of experiences these kind of like things that happen, but everyone around her is like saying that didn't happen, but she knows it did. It's almost as if you don't know who to believe. Like, do we believe Lauren or do we believe everyone that's telling her no? Like, for example, I think there's a scene in the book where she sees a woman outside there, like, so they live in like a cabin. It's sort of somewhere that's fairly isolated, and she sees a woman that looks like her mum. And she's like, who's that woman? And everyone's like, what are you on about? And she's like, I can see a woman. Yeah, it's It's creepy, but I absolutely love this. I am seriously debating whether I actually want to put this on Vinted. This will be on Vinted, hopefully, if I decide not to keep it. I don't think I will. The reason I'm getting rid of it is simply because I just don't think, and I'm saying that now with not much conviction, I'm going to reread it again. It's one of those stories you kind of read and maybe you want to read again. No, I'm getting rid of it. Come on, let's be good. No. Okay, so the next one is called Though the Bodies Fall by Noel O'Regan. This is one that, again, I did talk about in one of my other vlogs. I can't remember which one exactly. I think it was in my June one. It's set in Ireland and it's about a guy who lives on his own. He lives in his own old family home, and people often come to this cliff, and obviously, as you can see, he lives on like pretty much the edge of a cliff, and it's known as like a suicide spot, and people will often take their own lives there, and he's kind of what he feels responsible for them, and he try and basically talks them out of it and try and saves them and all that stuff. I can't remember exactly, but I think I gave this either 3 or 4 stars. I probably should have looked before I did this. It is quite short-ish. It's not very long. It's quite easy to read. It's got a lot of like short chapters and breaks. It's one of those books where it was good. It didn't quite have the emotional impact I was hoping for. Like there were parts where it was obviously quite distressing, sad and all that, but it wasn't quite, I don't know, it didn't quite impact me in the way I thought it might do. And also I think I went in this a bit wrong because I thought it was more creepy and scary. It's gonna be, I don't know why I thought, I must have not read this correctly when I put this on my TBR, because I thought it was more creepy and scary and all that kind of thing. But it's good, but it's one of those ones where I'm just like, I'm not gonna read this again. It was a bit slow paced as well, I did find. Like I did find myself getting a bit bored. Overall, I did like this. One of my other videos I did talk about this because I made a mistake with this one. This is called Love Untold by Ruth Jones. Now I haven't actually read this one, but I have read from this author before. I accidentally bought 2 copies of this. I didn't realise I already had one. This is the charity shop one. I bought brand new, so I've kept the new one for me, and this is going to go back, well, I'm going to try and put it on Vinted. I don't think it will sell, so if it doesn't, then it will go back to the charity shop because I didn't realise I'd already had a copy. I think it's also because this author does very similar style front covers, and the one I bought was bright blue and this one was bright pink, so no wonder I didn't quite correlate. But anyway, if you don't know who Ruth Jones is, she is a Welsh actress in the UK, and she's well known for playing Nessa in Gavin and Stacey. I read a book from her a few years ago. I can't remember what it's called. It's something about 3. It's got 3 in the title. I can't remember, and I really, really liked that. In fact, I loved it. And so yeah, that's why that's going back. Just because I made a mistake. I can't believe I did that as well, because I bought that one brand new, and luckily it was from an independent bookshop, so I felt good that at least I was supporting that. Yeah, I didn't realise I'd already had a copy, so note to self, I've learnt my lesson there. Don't do that again. And then we've got Carla by Colin Walsh. This was gifted to me by my mother-in-law for Christmas. I did mention this in one of my vlogs. I can't remember which one. It's set in Ireland, I remember that, and it's about a group of friends, and one of the girl, I think her name's Carla, goes missing. It's basically about how all these friends, it's like as they grow up and how it's affected them and how they kind of come together to like make sense of it and all of that. And yeah, it's quite dark, it's quite deep. It was very, very, very slow paced, very, very slow paced. And if you know me by now, you know that I'd struggle with very slow paced books. It depends, but generally it's not my go-to. I just didn't really like it. I mean, it was fine. I think I gave it 3 stars. It was just fine, but I think I may give it 3 stars, or did I give it 2 stars? It was either 2 or 3 stars. I think it might have been 2 stars because it just wasn't for me. It's just that simple. It just wasn't for me. So that's why that's going back. I do, like I said, I don't know if I mentioned this, I do like that front cover though. It is pretty. I don't know if I'll read from this author again. I might give him another go, and if not, then just not for me. But yeah, I was kind of disappointed with this because I don't like not liking books that people give me, but it's just the way it is sometimes, isn't it? So there we go. So this next one is actually my husband's. I haven't read this and I don't plan to read it because it's just not really my thing, but it's called Victoria's Wars by Sol David. This, I believe, is a non-fiction book all about Queen Victoria's wars. I don't really know, to be honest, but it just doesn't interest me at all. It's actually quite big. How many pages is this? Oh, okay, so it's got sources. I always forget with non-fictions, a lot of it's the sources at the back, so actually it's not as long as you think. About 400 pages actually. It has got some pictures in it as well, so quite like a book, especially a non-fiction book that has pictures. I do love that front cover, and I think he also got this from a charity shop. He didn't really like this, if I remember. I don't know what his rating was, but he said it was a bit boring. If I remember, I could be wrong, but I don't think he particularly liked this book. It's one of those books you've kind of read, you don't really need to read again, especially with non-fiction sometimes, so that's going back. And then we have this next one, which again, if you watched one of my very recent videos, you'll know this one, and that is A Slow Fire Burning by Paula Hawkins. I got this from a charity shop. I really do like this front cover, and I gave this 5 stars. So you're probably like, what, you really loved it and you're giving it back? But it's because I know I won't reread it. I absolutely loved it at the time. It got me back into thriller, and I would highly recommend this if you are in a bit of a reading slump. I just felt it really worked for me. It was very fast paced, which I I like. I don't know why I struggled with that. I was like, I like that. But no, I do really love that. Paul Hawkins is the author that also wrote The Girl on the Train, which became very successful and was turned into a movie. This is about 4 women and how they're all kind of connected to this murder that happened, and it was a murder of a young man on a narrowboat. The way she gets you to like love these characters, like I just felt so connected to these characters, especially the relationship between Irene and I think her name was Laura, but I could have that wrong. It has a lot to say as well about women in society and how we view them, if they're rich or if they're poor. My only criticism, and I did say this in my review as well, is that I do wish it was a little bit more diverse, because as far as I'm aware, all the characters are Caucasian, and I was like, oh, that's a bit disappointing, because it's set in London, which, if you know London, you'll know it's very multicultural, it's very diverse. You know, obviously it's a city, especially London, so that was a bit disappointing. If it was set in a rural town in England, I might have gone, okay, fair enough. It's about average size book, so yeah, I would definitely, if you want to read and slump, I would definitely pick this up, because the whodunit, I was hooked. I did give it more, I think, of a low 5-star though, just because ending was a little bit like, it was like one of those, it was like the ending wasn't great, but it wasn't awful, it was just a bit abrupt. I think, if I remember correctly. I won't reread this as much as I did like it, because that's the thing with some of these thrillers, like once you know who did it, it doesn't quite have the same impact, does it? So yeah. And now we have Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn. This was a charity shop, I think, as well. So this, again, I did mention in one of my other videos. It's the first time I've ever read this book, and I also watched the film for the first time. I think I ended up giving this 3-star. I've got to be honest, guys, I wasn't that impressed. I think it was a bit overrated. I've now realised that Gillian Flynn, I don't think is the author for me. I have also read some other books from her. I gave them the same rating, just very average. I do think, for me personally, like I said, I find it very overrated, but you know, if you vibe with this author, great, good for you, but personally I just didn't. However, if you have watched that video where I go on about Gone Girl, I really did like that monologue. That monologue alone was 5 stars. I was like, why couldn't the rest of this book be like that? If the book was like that monologue, and if you know, you know. Is it Amy, her monologue? One of the best writing I think I've ever read, and I'm not joking you, but why the book couldn't be like that throughout, I don't know. If you don't know what Gone Girl is about, it's about a woman who goes missing, and I say missing because she kind of plans it. I think her husband is having an affair, and they're quite well off, I think, from what I remember. I'm trying to remember now, and it's like, and she plans it all, and how she goes about planning it is actually really fucking incredible. I get why people do love this, don't get me wrong, because it's so clever the way it's done, and she as a character, Amy, I think her name is really clever, and she does it to kind of get back at him. I get why people like it, I do. I see the vision. It's just, I don't know, I think it's just the writing for me. I couldn't quite get on board with it. It was a bit kind of all over the place sometimes. The pacing was a little bit off as well. There was just something that didn't quite click with me with it, which is weird because I feel like I should love this, and I did like it, I just didn't love it. And then we have Rewitched by Lucy Jane Wood. Now, again, I mentioned this in my other video, I can't remember what it is, I think it's my autumn reads one. Don't worry, I will take the tabs out, by the way, before I sell it. This is like a cozy fantasy, I think, yeah, it's cozy fantasy. I gave this 4 stars in the end. The only reason I could give it 4 stars personally was just because there were some things that really resonated with me towards the end of the book, to the point where it did make me quite teary and emotional. I can't remember her name, Belle or Bella, I think it is Belle or Bella, I think it's Belle actually. When they turn 30 in this like world, they have to show that they're using their powers, and if they're not, then the coven takes it away from them because it's seen as like a bit of a waste. So she wants to keep her powers, and so she has to go through these like assessments and trials to try and keep her powers, basically. And it kind of goes the story. It's a bit of a story about self-discovery, identity, what it is to be a woman, what it is to live in a world as a woman. It has a lot to say about that. I got what it was trying to do, and I did like the messages. I just think it just fell a bit short, and it was quite boring in the middle, like nothing really happens. And I know that sounds really stupid because like, yeah, it's cozy fantasy, what do you expect? But like when I say nothing happens, I mean like to the point where it's just kind of boring. It's like, yeah, I don't know, it just, there was just something about it didn't quite click with me, and I couldn't quite put my finger on what it is. I think I found myself just getting a bit bored. But I will say the ending, the like last few chapters is where it really picks up. It's like, whoa, why couldn't we have this? There's a battle with like zodiac signs at the back. There's a lot of things that happen. It's like, whoa, it's almost quite jarring. But I'm not going to reread this. I did also read the second book, and I wasn't that keen on that, but I did prefer this one to the second book, which is Uncharmed. You know, I'm glad glad I tried it though. I do feel happy that I tried it, and it wasn't awful, it just wasn't quite as good as I was expecting. I did unfortunately have quite high expectations as well, so maybe that was my problem. Let's talk about this front cover, because how stunning, how absolutely beautiful is that front cover. I love that front cover so much. It's cute, man, it's fucking cute. Colour palette as well, like it's like pink and purple and like orange. That is honestly, that and pine is probably one of my favourite covers of all time. Whoever designed that needs not only a raise, but needs like, I don't know, like they need like the biggest cake in the world or something, because that is beautiful, honestly. Who designed this? Charlotte West by Honey Plum Paper. Wow, Charlotte West, you have honestly got a huge fan, and I'm going to go check out your work if you have such work. Okay, now these ones kind of go together, not really, but I'm going to put them together because they kind of do. So this is This is Boy Tales of Childhood by Roald Dahl, and Going Solo by Roald Dahl. So you read them, that one first and that one second. But they are basically, you can buy them as like one big book, so I kind of put them together. I got this from a charity shop. This is basically kind of like an autobiography of Roald Dahl, really. I don't know how you pronounce that, sorry. I hope I'm saying that right. Everyone knows Roald Dahl. I don't need to tell you who Roald Dahl is. I actually did prefer this one. I think I gave these 4 or 5 stars. Obviously they're for kids. They're really easy to read. This one was actually, I was laughing at this. It's actually really funny. Like, guys, honestly, this is actually really good. It was really funny. And I don't know whether it's because I'm British and I like related to a lot of things he's saying and talking about. Although he is that kind of old school British, like from like the 50s and 60s, which obviously I think even earlier than that, to be honest. So there were some things I was like, yeah, I don't relate to that. You can clearly see where he got inspirations for like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and all his other books. And this was more about his time in war. It was a bit boring, this one. It wasn't as good. It was still fascinating, but you have to laugh, right, at how British he is, because like, it's just British people. We are a bit like, I don't know, we just don't really express ourselves very well. And like, this one made me laugh because he was literally right. He was in Africa and he got out of his plane or something. No, he didn't get out. He just, they crashed. He's like, oh, never mind. Like, oh, jolly how, like, never mind. Let's just keep going. And it's like, you've just crashed your fucking plane. Like, and it's the way his attitude is so like, oh, what a shame. Anyway, like, it's I don't know, man, like it is good. I would say if you need a bit of a pick-me-up or you need a bit of escape, I would just read these because they're quite funny. And I don't think you even have to have ever read or watched any Roald Dahl, anything to do with Roald Dahl. I think you can go in blind, like you can even know nothing about him. I didn't know much about him at all, really, other than he was British and Welsh even. But yeah, it is fascinating. Actually, he's had a fucking fascinating life, actually. I'm like, Jesus, I didn't know all this. His family are really interesting people and he's had a very interesting life. You could read these very much as like standalones, and you don't have to read them, I don't think, in that order, but I know I'm just not going to reread them. Then we have One of Them by Musa Okwonga. This is one I read very recently. It's very, very short and it's a memoir. So we have a memoir about this author's time at Eton. If you don't know what Eton is, it's a very, very prestigious boys' school here in the UK. It's private school. I believe it's in London, somewhere in London. I'm not quite sure where exactly. Just to give you kind of scale how kind of like prestigious it is, nearly all of the British male prime ministers have been there. So David Cameron, Boris Johnson, I think even Winston Churchill, all of them have pretty much been to Eton. So yeah, it's basically where future prime ministers go. It's a very, very elite school. And I literally just read this and I can't remember him very well, but he's from a predominantly middle working class area and he is a black man. So it's his experience as a black person going to Eton. Now, as you can imagine, Eton is mostly white, although they have in recent years diversified. But yeah, they have been predominantly quite white males for a very long time. And also I forgot to mention royals go there as well. So like Prince William and all the rest of them. This was so fucking profound, like honestly. And it honestly makes me think about my white privilege so much. Because like, obviously I know I have white privilege, but you forget like how fucking ingrained it is. The things he had to go through and experience, you're like, I wouldn't even have to think about that. Read it, honestly. It's so short and it's got loads of breaks in it, very, very short chapters. It really makes you think, and it should make you think. That's the whole point. I loved how honest he was. He really wanted to go to Eton, and then once he was kind of like left Eton, he didn't really like, it was almost like he kind of thought, well, what was the point in it all, and he started questioning his time there and questioning whether he really wanted that kind of life anyway. And he was also dealing with his sexuality at the time because he's come out as a bisexual man, but he was grappling with that for a while. So there's a lot of things he has to say, and it's also just fascinating to see the whole process of Eton and like how they get on and how they get in and what they do there, and it's a lot, and he really did go through quite a lot with that. I love a good memoir, as you know, and so I think this was just right up my alley, and so yeah, but I know I'm not going to reread this, and I think I bought this actually from when I went to Hay on Wye. I would highly recommend this. Like I said, it's really short, guys, so you'll fly through it. It's not very long at all. Probably one of the more profound books I've read this year, I would say. Go get yourself a copy. So then I have Undoctored by Adam Kay. This is also one that I mentioned in one of my videos, but I will briefly talk about it. So this is a memoir. This is a follow-up to the book that this author wrote called This Is Going to Hurt. And if you haven't heard of that book, if you don't know what the hell I'm on about, then this author is, or was rather, an NHS, not a doctor, he was an NHS specialist, specifically in gynecology or like birth. I don't know, I'm sorry guys, I can't remember. Talks about his time that. Now This Is Going to Hurt, the first book he did, was very, very successful, and it got a TV series as well. This is basically just a follow-up to that, and it's more about how he became a doctor and his process in doing that and what he learned, and then starting out as a student doctor and all that. He talks more about that in here, which I found really fascinating, and also more about his personal life and coming to terms with his sexuality and how his family reacted and things like that. I really, really love this. I gave it 5 stars. I do really like this author's humour. I get why people don't like it. I do get it because he's very sarcastic, but unfortunately it's my kind of humour. I was laughing out loud at this book, laughing, crying with laughter. Loved this book. He's very honest as well, and which I did appreciate, but I will say, please watch your triggers with this, because he talks a lot about self-harm, suicide, very, very heavy stuff. So just bear that in mind. Yeah, but I couldn't put this book down. Absolutely loved it, but I'm not going to reread it just because it's one of those ones I've read it once. I don't really need to reread it again. This is my husband's book, and it's called Mort by Terry Pratchett. It's part of the Discord series. I bought him very recently for his birthday like a sort of nicer version of this book. This is like, I think, one of the 70s versions, I think. He got this from a charity shop. It's quite short. I couldn't tell you what it's about really. I think it's a story about death. It's obviously part of the Discord series. I don't really know much about it. I don't really have any interest in reading it. I know these books are meant to be quite whimsical, and obviously it's fantasy, but normally that would appeal to me. I don't know, I just don't really want to get into it, I guess. I've got so many more other books I'd rather read. I do like the artwork, but like I said, I got because it's one of his favourite books, so I got him like a nicer version because he wants to reread it. So I said, well, if you're going to reread it and it's one of your favourite books, then I will get you a nicer version. And now we have The Soul of an Octopus by Cy Montgomery. This is one that I have very recently read. So this is a non-fiction book about octopuses. Sorry, that was so fucking immature. Anyway. Let's be real, sorry guys. This was a little bit disappointing for me. I think I ended up giving this a 3-star, but more of a low end of a 3-star. It was fascinating, but it wasn't quite what I thought it was going to be. And I saw in the reviews and I was like, thank God it's not just me. Do you know when you read reviews of books, you think, thank God it wasn't just me, because I thought it was just me. It wasn't quite what I was expecting. I thought this was somebody who was like kind of well, she was a researcher, but it was more about her time in an aquarium. It was more of like a book about her experience well, she wasn't even working, it was for this book really. She did it for the book, but she wasn't even volunteering, but she hung out a lot at the aquarium to like study and I guess talk about octopuses with the staff that were there. So it was more about her time with the aquarium, and then she did take up scuba diving a little bit to see them in the wild. It was mildly interesting, but I didn't really learn an awful lot about octopuses, and I was hoping to learn more about it. If you're like a massive octopus lover, I would probably say don't read this, because there were some things that she talked about, because obviously they do talk a lot about octopuses in captivity. I'm going to just say something firstly. I don't support aquariums and or zoos. I really don't like them. I don't support them. I don't think they're ethical in any sense of the way. However, wildlife centres I get, like rescue wildlife centres, totally on board with all that, as long as they release them back into the wild. Anything which releases an animal back into the wild and they keep it just to be treated, or if they've got like an injury or a disease and they're using to treat it and then they release them back, absolutely fine with that. Love that kind of work. Don't like zoos, don't like aquariums, because they profit off the animals. She was kind of, you could tell, kind of like vouching for the other side, and I was like, okay. There are some pros to like zoos and aquariums, I will give people that, but they're so few and far between that for me personally, I just can't support it. And she was just, yeah, there were some things she described where I was like, oh, that's a bit cruel, it's a little bit cruel. And I just couldn't really get on board with that, because it just seemed a bit cruel, and it made me laugh really. Well, not laugh, it kind of made me a bit sad, because like she was like, oh, they seem so down all the time, they seem so down. Is it because they're bored? Is it because they're stressed? I'm like, yes, it's because they're bored and stressed, especially an octopus, which is like one of the most intelligent creatures on the earth. Yes, of course it's fucking bored. Like, of course it's stressed. Other than that, it was good. good, it was fascinating. And she, you know, the people that do work at these places, I know that they do really love and care for these animals, and you can tell that, especially the staff that work with them. But I just, yeah, there was the things that I wasn't quite on board with, let's just put it that way. But other than that, it was fine. Like I said, there were some fairly mildly interesting bits, especially when she started seeing them in the wild and started appreciating them more in the wild. And she did sort of gloss over the kind of stresses in captivity. I feel like she could have gone into that a little bit more. Maybe she wasn't allowed to, because at the end of the day they did give her almost unlimited access to this aquarium and behind the scenes, so she's not going to really then go, by the way, this isn't awful, by the way. So I do get it, but yeah, I would just say if you love octopuses, you probably know most of it anyway, so this wouldn't give you anything new, if that makes sense. So I would just say there's probably better books about it out there. So yeah, I won't be, I don't know if I'm going to put this on Vinted. I think this one I might give to my father-in-law, because he's into octopuses, so I'm going to see if he wants to read that. This last one is a little bit, I think we're going to take a bit of a breather with this one, because this is a little bit controversial, this one, and I need to talk about it. This is my Harry Potter collection by the author that I don't really want to say her name, because we all know her name. These are the versions I want to sell on Vinted, and it's the Mina Lima edition, so they're like this. I have to hold them out, and it's only the first 3 Harry Potter books, so now these editions, they are beautiful, like they are, guys, like look at that, so beautiful. Like look, they have like little really lovely beautiful illustrations, like absolutely stunning. Like I'm honestly a bit sad to get rid of these, but because they are stunning. And Mina Lima, so these are the people that did these books, they're graphic designers, and they did the graphic design on the films of Harry Potter. They have their own shop. I've got another, they do other books as well, not just Harry Potter, but they went out of contract. For those of you who don't know, they went out of contract, and for the 4th book, so The Goblet of Fire, they said they're not doing them anymore. And there's another person that's taken over doing them, but a lot of people were obviously really pissed off and upset, including myself, because we'd been collecting them up until that point, to then be told, oh, they're out of contract, meaning like, I don't know quite what happened, and Mina Lima haven't really talked about it, but something tells me because they support trans rights, that can't be a coincidence, that the author probably dropped them, or Warner Brothers dropped them, or Bloomsbury, whoever fucking owns that fucking shithole. Then yeah, I used to really love Harry Potter, to the point where, when I say love, they were my favourite ever books. They were the reason I got into reading, and like many other people, I am a millennial at the end of the day. I'm more of a younger millennial, but I don't really want to go into that, that's a whole other video. But I am gutted about getting rid of these, because they are beautiful, but I just cannot justify being an ally and keeping these, especially as, to be honest, I'd rather have the money. I have got still the Harry Potter books, my editions, and the reason I don't want to get rid of them just yet is because they were a gift from my late mum. Honestly, I'm actually kind of gutted about these, but that's, like I said, that's a whole other subject. I am kind of gutted, but when I think about it, I'm like, I'd rather get the money, because although these are a little bit, not the greatest condition, they're a little bit, if you look, they're not like pristine, but they will sell for something. I just know I'm not going to read them now, and like I said, they are pretty, but what can you do? Like, I'm just not supporting that author anymore, for obvious reasons. She's extremely transphobic, and I cannot and will not support that. Anyway, that's all I have for you guys. Yeah, that was actually not as long as I thought we'd be here for a bit longer, but yeah, for my first ever Unhaul video, not bad. I think I did pretty well. I've still got a lot of books obviously upstairs, I've still got a lot of physical books, but really, as unhauls go, I didn't do too bad. Sometimes I don't know about whether to keep a book or not. I do kind of think about it, but then I'm like, you know what, there's so many other books that I need to read and want to read, that actually, if I have to lose one to make room for another, then so be it. But anyway, thanks for watching, guys, and I hope as always that you have a lovely day.